Hello everyone, Hamas28 here, and today we're back in the world of Reclamation. So, not much has happened since our last episode. We got all the demonite. Where did I leave that actually? In here. In our backpack, so we can upgrade the altar to the next level. But, I realized a lot of the stuff we need to do next, such as getting access to antimatter, is going to take improving our energy production. Because as you can see, all of our power production literally comes from essentially fossil fuels. We burn coal, turn it to mana, then turn the mana to electricity. And while it works, it's not very efficient. And our power needs are actually barely being covered by this system with this tiny setup right here, because these 4 growth accelerators actually use quite a lot of electricity by themselves. Now you can see I also placed some more Certus quartz blocks along with these amethyst columns, because someone in the YouTube comments let me know you can actually use these guys to harvest Certus quartz the same way they do amethyst. And a neat feature is they also will regrow the broken Certus quartz blocks into the budding quartz variant. All free, you don't have to change it. It looks like they do have a certain radius. Since their home is this chest, they're not reaching these ones over here for some reason. But growing 7 is 7 times more efficient than growing 1, and it's fully automatic. They do try to harvest this one, but the annihilation plane still does its job of collecting it, which is very nice. But we're gonna need a lot more power if we're gonna be running a lot of other machines, and we're gonna have to start improving that right now. As you can see, over here, I started looking at what you need to build the fission reactor, and as you can see, it's quite a lot of stuff. It's going to take a lot of materials to get there. So first, we're going to go ahead and make the crusher and the rotary condensator. You'll see it's already checked. That's because I did something off camera that I'll have to show you later. But for now, we'll make the crusher. So if we come out over here, let's see, the crusher should take 2 buckets of lava, some basic control circuits, a steel casing, which takes steel, osmium, and glass. So we should have that. I made sure to get a bunch. So osmium, steel, glass, some of our control circuits, and infused alloy, which we might need for later. Anything else on here I think we need? No. We will need 2 buckets of lava. So let's go ahead and grab that. I went ahead and grabbed our fire essence. We'll go ahead and throw this in here so we can use it to make lava whenever we need to. 1, 2, and now we're going to need a steel casing, and we should be able to make the crusher. We need redstone. There we go. I'll throw that in there, and make the crusher. So now that we have this guy, we'll set him up towards the middle of the production line. And the crusher is going to be useful for making biofuel. Biofuel can be made from crushing a wide variety of objects, plants, potatoes, all sorts of stuff. I'm guessing wheat is in here too. I don't see it though. Wheat. You can crush bread, so that works. Let me grab some bread from our farm. And someone was saying if I actually build a controller for all of this, it'll actually, I can just put the storage bus on the controller to access all the chests, which works pretty good. Let's make some wheat, turn the wheat into bread. And now we can crush the bread into biofuel. Then we can also make a biogenerator using the 1 basic control circuit, redstone, biofuel, and some iron ingots. And this is a pretty nifty way of generating some early power, but it doesn't really scale very well. But we'll go ahead and make it just because the quest book asks us to. What are we missing? Iron. Iron. There we go. Throw that in here. And we'll put this on the edge. Where's my pickaxe? Put this... There we go, on the edge. Now this is useful because it'll let us generate a lot more power. And because we have essentially a virtually unlimited supply of wheat, getting biofuel is extremely cheap. So you can see it's outputting 280 Fe per tick, which is pretty good. It's going to fill up the internal battery, and then at some point we can upgrade it. Looks like it only supports muffling. So you can see it is, while it's extremely cheap, how much power you get is extremely limited. So things that require a lot more power, this will not be able to support. Moving on, we're going to make a gas burning generator. This will take osmium, an electrolytic core, and 2 steel casings, which should be easy enough to make. We're going to need osmium dust and some iron and gold dust as well. So we're going to need 2 of this. That's also why I grabbed this iron and gold ore. I left this machine running because it makes it very useful for getting certain items, such as the ores, that we can turn into dust. And you can make those just by throwing them into the enrichment chamber, which is very easy. If you don't have the ore, you can just take a regular ingot and put it in the crusher, and it works the same way. This is just a bit more efficient, as you could see. This is part of the mechanism ore multiplication system, such that instead of just cooking 1 iron ore into 1 ingot, you break it down into dust, and then so on and so forth. And then we also need 2 osmium ingots. This one we will crush. So when we take that, we'll crush these. It's a bit slow, so we might want to get some of these like speed and energy upgrades. And making these machines into factories is probably where most of your energy consumption comes from mechanism. Because when you upgrade these, the speed upgrades increase the energy cost by, I think, with all 8 by 8 times. And then when you put the energy efficiency upgrades in there, it makes it more efficient, but it's still extremely expensive. And then when you upgrade it to a factory, it becomes even more so expensive. So let's go ahead and make our electrolytic core. And then we're going to need 2 steel casing, like so, to make the gas burning generator. So I went ahead and grabbed the rotary condensator as well. And for the gas burning generator, we'll go ahead and throw this guy right here to connect him. And this guy is pretty good. As you can see, it produces a large amount of RF very quickly, and as it says, it's a solid mid-range option. This should be good enough to get pretty much all the power we're going to need right now until we upgrade our machines later. But this will need a fuel, and the fuel of choice that they recommend is using aerated essence. And aerated essence is... thought I had aerated... there it is. Aerated essence comes from putting life essence into the rotary condensator. So if we go ahead and grab a bucket, grab some life essence, and then take our life essence, we can put it into here. How do I put this in here? Oh, there we go, toggle operation. You want to decondensate. And now it's working. It's taking the life essence and turning it into aerated essence, which is immediately getting pushed into the gas burning generator. And you can see it burns for 20 ticks with an energy density of 160 Fe per millibucket. So it's super good. And then this internal battery can store 80 KFE, which isn't a lot, but it's pretty good. The burn rate is 0.3 millibuckets per tick, and it's increasing slightly. So from 1 bucket of life essence, you can get a pretty good amount of energy, which means it can essentially run itself with no problems. Then you can further increase the efficiency by making ethylene as well, which you can see ethylene comes from the pressurized reaction chamber with water, hydrogen, and biofuel. And then you can combine this in, which one? Here we go, in the chemical infuser with aerated essence to make blooded ethylene, which, if we look here, has a burn time. This one is 20 ticks at 160 Fe per millibucket. This one is 40 ticks at 8.88 KFE per millibucket. So it burns for twice as long. For how much more power is that? 160 Fe 8.8 kFe. So that's essentially burning twice as long for 1,000 more energy. It's extremely energy dense. That's insanely good. But we're not going to need that so far. All I need is enough power to set up the supply chain for fissile fuel for the fission reactor. And this rain is really going on a long time. I'm going to sleep and see if we can skip it. Alright, the rain is gone. So now that we have a better way of generating power, we can start working towards the fission reactor supply chain. So in order to do that, we have to make fissile fuel, as you could see here, which comes from uranium hexafluoride in the isotopic centrifuge, which comes from uranium oxide and hydrofluoric acid in the chemical infuser, and then these two will take it. The uranium oxide takes a chemical oxidizer with yellow cake uranium. Luckily, yellow cake uranium is the easiest step in the supply chain. You just take uranium and put it into your enrichment chamber to get 2. So that's the easiest part. To get hydrofluoric acid, you need a chemical dissolution chamber along with sulfuric acid and fluorite. And then the fluorite block is just to block a fluorite. What else do you need? But the sulfuric acid needs the chemical infuser to combine sulfur trioxide and water vapor, and sulfur trioxide takes another chemical infuser to take oxygen and sulfur dioxide, and then oxygen needs an electrolytic separator to turn water into hydrogen and oxygen. You can also make it with the pressurized reaction chamber to make more substrate, but that requires ethylene, so we're not doing that. And then going back to the start, in order to make, where is it? Water vapor, we need the decondensator to take water and turn it into water vapor. So there's quite a lot of steps needed to make fissile fuel, but it is a fission reactor, so it makes sense that it shouldn't be that easy. It's just a little bit annoying. Now, luckily, thanks to applied energistics, it is a little bit easier to manage because you should be able to make, I forget what they're called, should be in here. Let's see, this is for source, storage cell, this is portable, let's see, fluids, there should be one for gases, spatial storage, mana storage, chemical storage, here we go, applied mechanistics. You can make these, oh, there's even a creative one. You can make chemical storage cells that will store chemicals. As you can see, they only store 5 types. But they are pretty cheap, taking only Certus quartz and a logic processor. But that lets you output pretty much all of the, what's the word? It lets you output all of the intermediate ingredients into your AE system. That way you can pop them into your machines a lot easier. If you weren't able to do that, you have to kind of space out the machines in such a way that you feed it into a tank, that way you can store some excess and then pump it from the tank into the next step. So first things first, we're gonna need, what are we gonna need first? We need to go to the basic level. Uranium oxide is just the chemical oxidizer in here. So I guess that's one basic level, and then we can just have that output into the AE system. And then we should be able to do that by, if we take a storage bus, if we have all the outputs go into a chest, and then have that chest connected to the storage bus, we can feed it into the AE system. No, there's an easier way to do that. Let me double check. I knew there was. So we can make an ME import bus to just pull everything into the AE system to make it a lot easier. Because most of this stuff is output via, I forget which one it's called. Let me save the import bus. It's not a cable. I think it's just a pipe. This is the one, no, that's fluids. I think it's a tube. gases, pigments, slurries. No, that's the energy. What's the one for items? Mechanism. Oh, logistical, of course. There it is. Items and blocks. So anything that's an item or block, we could just have pumped in. Now, we still don't have any item cells in our ME drive. We're just using this really big chest, which isn't bad, but we could probably stack some ME drives in here. We'll probably use the mechanism drives to store the gases though. Those are probably going to be more effective, because with this chest, you see I have the stack upgrades. So anything that gets outputted via anything that's an item or block is probably better put into a chest, because it automatically stacks it for us. So for example, something we can do is that the crusher makes biofuel. So we can have biofuel come in here, and we can have bread come into the crusher and export the biofuel, and then you can have it automatically go into the biogenerator to make bioethanol and make electricity, like that. Or what was the other use for this? I think it was just that. Yeah, you can use it to make ethylene, which I said we're not going to do, at least right now. So we could probably just leave it and then just have the exports just go into the AE system. The rotary condenser, though, we are going to need for making water vapor. So we can have water come in here, and since we can craft water using water, whatchamacallit, water essence, it actually makes it a lot easier. Although I wonder how that works. No, it should work fine. We should be able to input a water bucket via AE and then take an empty bucket out. We'll just need some auto crafters, otherwise I just have to leave water buckets in there and that'll work just fine. So we might need a second rotary condense entrader. That way we can leave this one together, so we can just supply more life essence when we need more power. So let's see, what are we going to need to build a second one? Rotary condensator. See, this is what I was talking about. It's out of power. Let's see. So let's grab some universal cables. Universal cable. And hook this up. Hey buddy, can you get out of the corner? I don't know why this guy likes the corner so much. Right there. And there we go. Yeah, see, this is the problem. This is why I need to build this. We ran out of coal, so this stopped pumping mana, so this stopped getting power. So luckily, this is going to keep running. Let's throw the biofuel in here. This is draining out. This is draining out as well. And the energy cell is filling up pretty quickly. So you could see it ran out of energy extremely fast, and it's literally because of these 4 growth accelerators. They're power-hungry animals. So now that we have the power back online, let's make another rotary conden thingamabob, which will take energy tablet and a basic chemical tank. Throw that in there. The energy tablet. I have gold on me. Let me dump these in here. Energy tablet. And the basic fluid tank to make a second one. And while I did that, I realized something. We can actually make a sink. Like so. That's not a sink. We're at a clay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're going to need a bucket of water. So let me grab that real quick. I grabbed our water essence so we can make buckets of water. Grabbed our terracotta. Put that in there. Make a bucket of water. And make sink. Now the sink is super useful because, and let me make a pipe as well. We're going to need, the basic mechanical pipe should be good enough for what we need right now. Just like a straw. Because what we can actually do is only this will need power. So we can actually take it and put it right here. That's getting power. You could put a cable on top. That's the wrong cable. Put the mechanical pipe on top and put a sink here. Now we are going to need a configurator to configure these. Why isn't it typing? Oh, there we go. Config Urator, which will take, we have lapis. Where is it? There it is. And another energy tablet, like so. And let's put some power in it. Oh, it's all out. Well, the biogenerator is still running. And it looks like it's even getting excess because the internal battery is filling up. That's good enough. Now if we set this guy to extract, you can see it fills up the water pipe extremely fast. So now if we change this to decondensating, it starts turning the water into water vapor. And it's raining again. Why does it always rain this often? Alright, the rain has stopped. So now we're making water vapor. So now that we have the water vapor, let's see, we needed water vapor to make sulfuric acid. So that's this step completed. So now we need to make sulfur trioxide, which will take sulfur dioxide and oxygen. Now to make oxygen, we're going to need the electrolytic separator, and this will need water as well. Now luckily I made sure to, I crafted a couple of these items beforehand. So now we're going to take our electrolytic separator, put this guy right next to it. It's getting power. Now if we put our mechanical pipe on top, that's not the top. On top, this is getting water as well, and now it's converting it into hydrogen and oxygen. Hydrofluoric, sulfuric, trioxide. So now this will supply the oxygen part of the sulfur trioxide mixture. That's the trioxide in the trioxide, or the oxide in the trioxide, is what I meant. Now we're going to need to generate sulfur dioxide, which comes from the chemical oxidizer, which will take sulfur. So here's the chemical oxidizer. And I did say it takes sulfur, which is a little bit annoying because luckily it only has 6 uses. Sulfur dioxide. To get sulfur through mechanism, you need a chemical injection chamber with gunpowder and hydrogen chloride, which is salt. Luckily we can craft salt pretty easily. It's just a little bit annoying because now I have to supply this with something that isn't super renewable. We can craft gunpowder, but it's not really cheap, which is a problem. So now we're going to place this guy right here, chemical oxidizer, because we need this for, I just said what it's for. It was for the sulfur dioxide. So we're going to need a source of sulfur, which, let's see, so you could take water and oxygen and charcoal to make sulfur and hydrogen in the pressurized reaction chamber, or gunpowder and this. I think we have some sulfur though, somewhere, because blood magic also has sulfur, yes. But we need this to be more reliable, because we're going to need quite a lot of fissile material to run stuff. So we're going to craft sulfur. So I think we can make gunpowder through flint. Is there a better way? You can enrich sulfur into gunpowder. Wait. You can crush flint into gunpowder. We can get flint from fire and stone essence. Okay, so it's not too bad. We can get a pretty good amount of it. Let me go grab that stone essence real quick. Alright, fire and stone essence go in there. So now we can literally craft flint by the stack, throw that into the crusher to make our gunpowder. Then we can combine that combine the gunpowder with salt, because as you can see, salt is very easy to make. You just take, not the salt block, not this. There's an easier recipe for salt. I know there is. You know how I know? Because if we run to our house real quick and come in here and open this. This is a different type of salt though, so it might not work. Water bottle, salt. Okay, so this salt isn't gonna work. Salt block comes from salt. Salt. So we're gonna need a chemical crystallizer. Gaseous brine. No, that doesn't make sense. Because this is just turning salt into salt. So how are we supposed to... There must be a different way to get sulfur. Because this is hydrogen chloride. Hydrogen and chlorine. We're already making hydrogen. So how do we make chlorine? Brine makes sodium. And brine comes from water. Thermal evaporation controller comes from water to make brine. So you're telling me I need to build this device to get brine, so we can use the brine in the electric separator to make chlorine, just so we can combine the chlorine into hydrogen chloride, so we can make salt. Is that what it's saying? I think that's what it's saying. Why is this getting even more complicated? You would think something as simple as salt wouldn't be this difficult to get, but I guess I was wrong. Because we definitely can't find any salt in the world. All the salt is gone. Is there really no other way? I guess not. So I guess we're gonna have to build this device. Thermal evaporation controller. I've never built this before, but it looks like... Luckily, it looks like it only takes water, which should be pretty easy. We could just make another sink. But I'm gonna have to read up on the wiki to figure out how to actually build this thing. Alright, so I figured out how to build it. It does not look cheap in the slightest, but hey, when is anything easy? It never is. So, looks like we have to use... What blocks are these? It doesn't... Why doesn't it say what the block is? Let's see, advanced solar generator. I want to make brine, so we need this stuff. There we go. We need thermal evaporation blocks. We're gonna need copper for this. Where's my copper craft? There it is. So we're gonna need at least 16 of these just for the base. Then we're gonna need the outline, which will take 1, 2, 3, 4, 8, 12, 12. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, that's too many. So that's 2 layers. 1, 2, 3. We're out of steel. We can make some more steel. Okay, so that should be all of these. Then we're going to need the thermal evaporation controller, which we're missing the advanced control circuits. Luckily we can make these, 2 of these guys. Thermal evaporation controller. Then we're going to need 2. Is it this one? Is that the thermal evaporation valve? I think it's 2 of these, which will take 2 more of these guys. 1, throw that in there, throw that in there, that one, there we go. And then we're gonna need solar panels. That's why this is here. We need advanced solar generators, which will take, we need 4 of these, so we need 16 solar generators. which means, wait, we need 16 times 3 solar panels. Why is everything so expensive? Okay, so how many solar panels do we need? We need 4 of these. They take 4. So we need 16 solar generators. Each solar generator takes 3, so we need 16 times 3. 16 times 3, 48. So we need 48 solar panels. How many can we get? We're out of glass. Oh, luckily it's just panes. Those are cheaper. Glass panes. So we need 48 of these. We're going to run out of something. Yep, there we go. We're out of osmium. Now we're out of redstone. This is going to take forever. Luckily, I can start building the base regardless. So first, and we're going to build this... We don't really have a lot of room over here. And this is just for brine, so I guess we can put it right here. So, the base layer is a 4x4 of these thermal evaporation blocks. Then, you're going to build out the corners using some more. Grab these two. You're going to place your thermal evaporation controller here, your 2 valves here, and then continue building up another layer. Then you're going to build another layer. Oh, it's just a zombie. And then... Oh, it's done. Will this work without the solar panels, though? I thought the whole point of the solar panels is that it gives it the heat to make it into brine. Interesting. But now we just have to supply it with water. So if we grab our... which is our fluid pipes. There we go. Our fluid pipes and put here. We don't want these to connect. So I think I'm going to move these actually. So we'll take this one off. So we'll move one here. Put that there and there. There we go. So we'll have the water come in here and then the brine come out here. So let me get some more clay so we can make another sink. Alright, another handful of terracotta goes in there to make another sink. We need a water bucket. Done. Make the sink. Done. Make some more thermal evaporation blocks. Done. So now if we put our sink right here and we set this to suck. Water into brine. Cool. Okay, so I guess we don't need the solar panels. It's working without it. Although this is pretty slow to generate. If you wanted to go faster, I think that's what the solar panels are for. But this is working, which is good. Because these solar panels are really expensive, especially with the infused alloy. That's a lot of iron and redstone. But now we can make brine. So now with the brine, we put this in the electrolytic separator to make sodium and chlorine. So we need another electrolytic separator. Electrolytic separator, which will take an electrolytic core and 2 more osmium dust. Where's our osmium? Let's go ahead and break this. Go ahead, refill the biofuel to make 2 more osmium dust. And then at some point, I'm going to hook all this up to the AE2 auto crafters. So I could just hit a button and have all this auto crafted. That will save a lot of time. Why did I hit? Oh, it's the Certus quartz. That's what it was. Okay, grab the osmium. Throw that in there. Make the electrolytic core. Make some redstone. And make another electrolytic separator. So now this is going to pull brine out and we're gonna need power to come this way. I didn't think of that. We're gonna have to snake the cable underneath, I guess. Guess that works. Because this guy has to input brine and then output two things. So if we break him, turn him around, and get our pipe. There we go. Okay, so the brine goes into the electrolytic separator. Then we're going to need to run some cabling. So let's make some more basic universal cables. 1, 2, that should be enough. And let's dig through the floor here. Most of the power is going to come right now from here. Since we're building out this way, I might put the fission reactor like on that end. So just dig out through here. Oh, I have more in there. Nice. Rotate, wrench, configure it, I think I just leave it in wrench mode. That's what it has to be, right? Yeah, wrench, there we go. That's connected. Run that through here. And run the cable all the way over here. There we go. So now you can see it's separating it into sodium and chlorine. And sodium is actually useful in the fission reactor as well, because it's a better coolant than water, apparently. Thermal enthalpy. I feel like enthalpy is not a word, but I'm not an engineer, so I can't be sure. And looks like it does it pretty well. Now, I think you can actually improve the efficiency by adding more of these thermal evaporation blocks on the top. So let's build a little staircase here. Yeah, that turns it off because it's recognizing more blocks. Yep, there we go. So let's see. This is at height of 4, temp, production 2.61 millibuckets per tick. A tick is what, 30 per second? Or is it 20? I don't recall. I know it's somewhere around there. So we're getting not a ton, but once we put the solar panels on top later, it should go even faster. But now that we're making chlorine, we can make salt. So in order to make the salt, enrichment chamber, gaseous brine, chemical oxidizer. We have to take our brine and put it into the rotary conden. I'm just going to call it the rotary conden because I can't pronounce this for the life of me. So we're going to need another rotary conden. Rotary conden, which will take one of these guys, which will take one of these guys, and take one of those guys. Put all those dudes together to form a posse called the rotary condens thingamabob. Now we're going to hook this up. We want chlorine to come outside here. Output 1. What's the front? Front input, bottom. Okay, so this is the front. So left is output 1, so we want output 2, so this should plug in right here. It's making liquid chlorine. We don't want liquid chlorine. Wait. Salt. We want gaseous. We want liquid chlorine. Gotcha. Wait, this is gaseous brine. Salt, gaseous brine. Brine. Wait, why did I need chlorine? This is brine. To make the salt, it said you just put this in the chemical crystallizer. So why am I making chlorine? No, we needed the sodium for something. Sodium. Sodium. Liquid sodium. I'm confused. What was I doing? We wanted salt. Gaseous brine comes from decondensating brine. Why did I think I needed to separate the brine out into sodium? There was a reason, right? Why did I do this? Because we needed salt. Why did we need salt? We needed salt for a reason. I'm so confused. I looked away for 2 seconds. Well, we need salt, hydrogen chloride. Looks like you need salt for a variety of things. But why did I do this? I took a phone call and now I completely forgot. Okay, so we made the brine pool because we needed brine. Because we needed chlorine. Wait, it's all coming back. Fish oil fuel, uranium hexafluoride, hydrofluoric acid, sulfuric acid, sulfur trioxide, sulfur dioxide, sulfur, hydrogen chloride, chlorine, and hydrogen. Okay, so that's why we needed the chlorine. We needed the chlorine to make that. Where'd it go? Trioxide, sulfur dioxide, fish oil fuel, this one, that one, sulfur trioxide, sulfur dioxide, sulfur. I'm so confused. Why did I build this? I did it for a reason, right? Sulfur trioxide, oxygen, sulfur dioxide. But if you can just... We needed salt to make sulfur. But then why did I separate this out into sodium and chlorine when I could just turn the brine into salt? I'm so confused. Why did I do this? I'll be back in a second once I put my mind back together. Okay, I figured out why I was doing it. Then to make hydrogen chloride, we need to combine hydrogen and chlorine in a chemical infuser. So now we're going to make a chemical infuser. Chemical infuser, oxidizer, infuser. We'll take 2 chemical tanks and a steel casing to make the chemical infuser. So we'll place this guy, because this makes brine into sodium and chlorine. So I don't need liquid chlorine, I just need regular chlorine. So we put this guy right here. He has power. Input right to chemical infuser, gases, chlorine. Eject is not on. So we need to eject chlorine into this guy. Eject right output, auto eject. Why isn't the chlorine going in? Chlorine. Where's the front on this guy? I think this is the front, right? So this is the front, right output. Should go in here. Auto eject gases. Input right. Input 2. Which means we don't even need this, right? because the rotary conden just makes it into liquid chlorine. The chemical infuser doesn't need liquid chlorine, right? It just needs chlorine. Gases, auto eject on. Brine is building up here. So if I just remove this guy and connect it with this, that connects here. This, why aren't you connecting? Right, input 2, output, input 1. Yeah, it's not connecting. Unless the chemical infuser needs a gas? I'm trying to make hydrogen chloride. Item to gas, that's salt. So why doesn't this work? Has energy, empty, chemical infuser, hydrogen and chlorine. So chlorine, we want to dump the excess sodium to make chlorine. So chlorine should be coming out here. But it's not coming into the infuser. That's so strange. Alright, I fixed it. I was using the wrong tube. I didn't need to use the mechanical pipe. This is for fluids. We want gases. So now chlorine goes inside here. Now we just need to combine the chlorine with hydrogen, which we can get from our electrolytic separator over here. So we're going to take the front output, left. Where's the front on this? That's the back. So we want the front. Oh, I can actually just place this one and it should show me. Yeah, so we want the front output 1, auto eject. It's a gas, why isn't it outputting? Oh, I was on items. Output. So now it's full of hydrogen. Then we're going to run this cable over here. So let's dig out the floor over here. Just so it's a little bit neater. At some point I can replace all of these with facades. And we'll have this run into this side here. Let's make some more pressurized tubes. So now those go in here, and the hydrogen and the chlorine combines into hydrogen chloride. Now why are we running out of power? That's why we're running out of power. We need to get some more biofuel and some more life essence in here. There should be just enough power to run this. For 7 biofuel, burn that off. And let's make some more mechanical pipes. For now, we're going to just have that making our power, mechanical pipes. That's fluids, I don't want the pipes. I want the logistics. Going in here. Side config, eject, auto eject, output, goes in there, should fill this up. There we go. So now I can just make sure this stays with bread, and that should be able to power everything. Yeah, because we don't have enough power. So you could see the biogenerator works, but it just doesn't have enough power to keep up with all of this stuff. But now we're making hydrogen chloride. And now that we have hydrogen chloride, we can combine that here. Now we can combine the hydrogen chloride with gunpowder in the chemical injection chamber to make sulfur. So where's my, it's over here, right? Chemical oxidizer. Did I not make the injection chamber? Guess not. So let's make a chemical injection chamber. And that's going to take, oh, this is a lot more expensive. Okay, that's pretty cheap. We can make that. Chemical injection, enrichment chamber here. Make the purification chamber. We'll need 2 of these to make the purification. Then the chemical injection is going to take 4 reinforced and 2 elite control circuits. It's not too expensive because you can enrich the diamonds to get a little bit more efficiency out of it, but that is going to be a bit expensive on the diamond side. That did finish off some more quests though. Yeah, purification and chemical dissolution. Oh, and this is where it shows the thermal evaporation chamber. That's funny. But this video has gone on quite long enough. I would say so. This has been a very heavy engineering episode, but it's working out. It's funny, I thought today we were going to start building a fission reaction chamber, but I guess not. This might be a 3-parter because of just how much we have to set up beforehand. But regardless, I'm your host, Hamas28, and I'll see you guys next time.